Welcome back to the lab. Welcome back to EE for everyone. We've got our ESD monitor plugged in. We are strapped in. We're ready to go. This thing will start beeping like crazy if we are no longer grounded, which is awesome. And it's awesome because we've got some more circuit boards to make. We're going to pick up our Class AB monitor series, assembling the boards, and testing them for the first time. All right, yeah, let's get this thing unpacked. Huh. Well, that's weird. Who put that in there? This board looks pretty darn good. Looks like we're missing a few of the parts. In this case, it's actually most of the parts. Could ya not, ESD monitor? Sometimes the boards from JLC PCB will have some small scratches, other surface imperfections, general, I don't know, nonsense going on. We'll try to avoid those boards. It's really not that crazy. We've just got some potentiometers and surface mount doodads and, well, why are we still talking about it? Let's cue the time lapse. What you're seeing right now is why you really should not put tweaker potentiometers into finished design. They take time, they're expensive, and they take time. Like, just don't put your manufacturer through this. You're ultimately gonna pay for it. Find a way to design and meet your requirements. For a one-off dev board, or a two-off dev board, just in case one breaks, nothing wrong with that. But the reason why we wanted tweaker potentiometers was to adjust our bias point. We don't want it to be fixed. You know, if we were actually making this an amplifier board that you wanted to commercialize, you would have naturally picked a bias point. So anyways, let's talk about this dev kit. We're going to be testing a couple things, and what we want to know by the end of this video is, does the Class AB amplifier work? It's an exciting question. This little kit should push, I don't know, small tens of watts, probably not without a heatsink, but should be able to push some amounts of watts through the thing with a minimal amount of distortion. In this case, we're going to have channel 2 measuring the input, channel 1 measuring the output amplitude. 2 volts per division on both, and then we'll need this measuring the input amplitude, which I put on the center leg of that guy right there. Right on. Cool. So we're going to start with no input applied. And hopefully this works okay. So we're going to plug it in. And I'm going to turn up the voltage ever so slightly. Okay, we're at 6 volts in. Hey, you can see that as we change the input voltage, it's moving around the output, and then it settles out. We've got it up at 11 volts, and there's no appreciable current flowing in the design. Well, let's take our DMM, because we need another piece of equipment on this bench. We've got a signal generator, we've got a power supply, we've got a multimeter. Okay, let's check our bias point. We want to measure from ground to this point, right? Oh, we're in millivolts. Why are we in millivolts? We're hoping to see around half of VCC, and we are. We've got 11 volts in. I think it wanted 24 volts in. So let's bring this up to 16. Let's start our first test at 16 volts. We're seeing, what's that, 10 on the output. We'd want to see 8. And now we've got 2 ways to tweak that bias point. And I think we're going to need to start with the first one, because we have no steady state current flowing, which will be efficient but lead to some distortion. Actually, you know what? Screw it. Let's get this thing hooked up. Okay, so we've got a 1 volt peak-to-peak sine wave with 1 kilohertz coming in. Let's connect that. No DC offset. First of all, let's make sure that this is actually allowing some signal through. Oh, baby! Ooh, baby, a triple. Oh, look at that. Our potentiometer is tweaking. Ooh! Oh, look at the sine waves! Okay. I need to keep the excitement to a reasonable level. I don't think we've ever gotten a complaint on the channel that I've been too excited, but I think we're about to get that complaint today. So you can see we've got the input voltage and the output voltage, and there's actually very little crossover distortion. That is really cool. Let's zoom in on the horizontal scale. Look at that. That's beautiful. That's very little crossover distortion. Hey, just for fun, let's zoom out a little bit. Let's turn on the math channel. Turn on the FFT operation on channel 1. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and turn that on. What do we see? We see a pretty darn clean signal. So yeah, we can see that when we're measuring channel 2, you can see a pretty clean 2 kilohertz input. And when we change to channel 1, you can definitely see there's some added distortion. Let's put some cursors on that. So that primary frequency is right at 1 kilohertz. Looks like we've got a sideband at 2 kilohertz. Interesting. So as we tweak one of these pots, and I'm going to tweak the bias pot specifically, what we'll see is there will come a point. You can see we're changing the wave shape slightly. We're changing the gain because we're changing the bias point. And if we change it too low, there will come a point where we start to introduce those nonlinearities that are so well known and loved for a Class AB amp. And if we go ahead and turn this back up, there will come a point where we start to pass excessive currents through the system. And thank goodness, it looks like that balance point that in the simulation looked about right is indeed about right, because we are not pulling much current. Granted, we're not pushing much through the output. So I'm going to power this down 2.01 kilo ohms. Man, I got to get ohms, hertz, and volts straight for this video to make sense. What are the odds I actually say all of those in the right spot at the right time? Oh, man. Okay. So got our lead clipped again. Don't think we're going to short anything out. Got our input hooked in. Got our power. Got both of these to 2 volts per division. And if I turn on the output, look at that. Beauty. It's amazing how much better that thing works when you actually set it up right. And so just looking at how this thing works, what are we getting on the output? We are getting 8 volts peak to peak out. Let's crank up the input signal. Hey, there we go. Now we're getting some clipping. Let's scale both of these down just so we can still show the gain. What we can see is that there's some asymmetrical clipping. And that's where the second tweaker pot comes into play. If I turn it one way, so that becomes more asymmetrical. And if we clip it the other way, we'll see it becomes... What in the world? Okay, that didn't seem to do a whole lot of anything. Because if I... No, that is about the same. That's about the same. Okay, sweet. So just tweak the bias point a little bit. Got us to where we need to be. Looks good. Whoo! That FET is getting hot. So I suppose that answers one of my questions. Will we need to put a heatsink on this thing before we push appreciable power through it? The answer is yes. However, I want to see a couple more things before we do that. Yeah, even with just the small load, there's still a lot that we can test. So I guess let's do another follow-up video where we actually push the power handling capabilities. We'll get a decent heatsink hooked up there and push the system. But in the meantime, so let's change the wave to a square. Looks pretty square. Let's change the wave to a triangle. That looks pretty triangular. Whoo! Yeah, these FETs are getting nice and toasty. They're not going crazy, but they need a heatsink. Ha! This is pretty cool. Watching this thing generate these different frequencies. There's noise. Oh boy, that noise was drawing about 0.2 amps from the supply. This is really cool. I actually love this. So that was a few different waveforms that we can push through the thing. Let's try a few different frequencies. So let's start by going lower. Let's see how low we can go. We're down to 100 hertz. That still looks pretty good. And let's set a cursor on the vertical to get a sense for magnitude. So I'll just go ahead and set that up there. We'll set our negative cursor. All right, so we're down at 100 hertz. Wow. We're down to 10 hertz. We lost a little bit. Oh, sorry, there's 10 hertz. We lost a little bit of amplitude, but really not much. So there's 5 hertz. Oh, yeah, that gain, it's fallen off a cliff now. We're down at 1 hertz. That's not where we designed this thing to operate. It's not really good for anyone involved. You know you're going slow when you can watch the scope draw the trace across the screen. It's 1 hertz. All right. Yeah. So now we're up to 7 hertz. We've already recovered most of our output amplitude. We get this up to 100 hertz. Yeah, looking awesome. There's 1 kilohertz. There's 10 kilohertz. Still looks pretty good. 20 kilohertz, 30, 40, 50. Now we're starting to see the input current go up. The transistors definitely heating up. We're at 50 kilohertz. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for any distortion. It's popping out. That actually looks really awesome. That's pretty great. Let's keep cranking it up until things start getting too hot, I suppose. So now we're up at 100 kilohertz. Looks like the output amplitude is still right about the same. Gonna zoom on the scope. How about 200 kilohertz? All right. I'm gonna need to get a heatsink on this thing soon. We're up at 0.14, 0.15. Yeah. Input current is rising. All right. Yep. We got to shut her down. Right up at about 500 kilohertz is where we started to see some fun. Wow. Hey, this was pretty cool. Obviously, this isn't really the official testing or the testing that we had planned. This is really just a guy at an electronics workbench playing around to make sure the board came up okay. And oh my goodness, did it. We're operating at 16 volts. It looks like our potentiometers allowed us to tweak in the final values. Looks like the initial values that we picked based on the simulation were pretty darn close. I am really excited about this. And, well, I guess in the videos to come, what we're going to do is we're going to do some more stuff. We're going to hook up some heat sinks here. We're going to probably play some audio through it. We're going to hook up lower impedance loads down to 1 ohm. We're going to see what kind of output power we can get from this design and have a great time while we do it. Yeah, a special thanks to our Patreon members and YouTube channel members. Thanks for making awesome projects like this possible. And most of all, I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching today. I hope you learned something great today. That was not in the right order. Anyways, see you in the next one. Bye.